And just like that, Rudy has found the answer to curing his main problem, ED. This is legitimately such an incredible scene for a variety of reasons, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But I do want to state that even if this scene isn't obviously the most flashy in terms of, let's say, art and animation, it isn't something that, is action-packed like what we've seen in the past with Rudy going up against certain opponents. This is a very powerful scene because this shows character growth and progression between these two characters, and that the story really is picking up to where, like, we're getting to that conclusion of Core 1 of Mushoku Tensei Season 2. So let's dive headfirst into this. So I want to talk about how Rudy's, emotions right now. How he's feeling about Fitz, or in this case, Sylphie. How he doesn't really know the truth that it's still Sylphie. And also how, in a way, he was still willing to accept, the fact that he was in love with Fitz, even if Fitz turned out to be a guy. There's a lot of ways to really take this entire situation, and it kind of goes back to the main problems that really started at the beginning of, Season 2. For instance, why Rudy even had this problem to begin with ED, and, having just trauma, PTSD, not really knowing what to do with his life, all these type of things. That was just a really emotional hit to his very psyche. Everything that's going on here, it's kind of like Rudy is building a very healthy relationship. And let's get into that point. Basically, a lot of people that are watching this season, I think first up will probably say they want Sylphie and Rudy to instantly know who each other is. For instance, people are probably like, Sylphie, why don't you just say that you're Sylphie instead of just being Fitz? And why can't Rudy notice it? And despite me obviously talking about this, it makes a lot of sense why people would be a little bit upset that, this whole secret between the two isn't actually revealed yet to each other. And I think that, it can be a little bit annoying. But we gotta look at the other aspects of what it really does represent to the plot. And that is that Rudy isn't someone that is in a situation to where he could probably, kind of get back with old allies or people that were once friends. He needs to be able to establish and build relationships from the ground up from the start to build confidence within himself. Because we gotta look at it like this. Let's just say, in a different reality, okay, of the story, as soon as Rudy encounters Fitz, he finds out that Fitz is Sylphie, okay? For whatever reason. It could be any reason that comes into your head. In that moment, Rudy might have some confidence issues, because we know when he came to the academy, it was literally about his confidence. He had no confidence in himself, he felt isolated, lonely, didn't know what to do with his life. And if he encountered someone that he already knew and all that, okay, and found out they're alive, yeah, he would be happy, but he would also have confidence issues that maybe Sylphie would just walk out of his life and leave him as well. Because you gotta remember that Rudy was losing people left and right. He kept having people, leave him in his life, and it really was draining him emotionally and mentally. And so he would definitely have had that problem if Sylphie would have been revealed, for instance, and he would have been extra careful, not have pushed his bounds, not went, too far with maybe their conversations or whatever. He would have probably just been very, very passive. That's definitely what Rudy probably would have done upon first encountering Fitz if he found out Fitz was actually Sylphie. So the fact that obviously a lot of time has passed since, he came to the academy to where he's at now, he's got to build a relationship with this person called Fitz, which we know is Sylphie, but in his mind it's Fitz. And he's built this relationship and forged this bond of getting to know each other in his head, and he feels a little bit more confident about being around this individual, which is what led to him falling in love with Fitz within this episode. And I think it's a very powerful thing, because as much as people want to get to that action of having the truth revealed between the two, it's very important because Rudy needed a organic relationship. He needed to have a bond between another person and grow slowly with them. Take it very slow, not rush it, and be under the impression that, it's just someone completely new, a completely new connection, that he can be his own self and a new person as well. That's exactly what's going on here. And so that is the significant impact of all of this, is that Rudy is curing himself because he didn't want to rush into and instantly have, satisfaction. He has taken a long time to get to this point. And I think what really kind of states this is that after, Fitz is embarrassed, or Sylphie, and runs off, Rudy comes to a conclusion like, oh, I'm fixed. He had his ED problem a little bit fixed briefly, and then he's like, oh, it's not fully gone. And then he's like, you know what? even if Fitz wants to be treated like, a man, he will continue to treat Fitz like a man, even if, Fitz is a girl, and there could be vague reasons for it. Everything about this statement, like, that Rudy talks about here, like, when he's actually legitimately having these subtitles here, and figuring out who is the key to fixing his ED, he's like, okay, even if Fitz is the cure, he's not going to force himself onto Fitz. And that's a big thing. It shows a lot of growth with his character, that he is factoring in the well-being of this other individual instead of his own well-being. And that it just shows that even if he does have this problem with ED and it's not fully fixed, he realizes that, it isn't fully incurable. There is ways to fix it. And he realizes even if he can't probably have a relationship, there could be maybe some, I guess, cure to it in the end. So, like I said, it's a really good scene. I love this scene with Rudy. It dives a lot into kind of what he's learned over time throughout these years. He's still not the best person, but he has definitely grown and changed for the better with time. Now, another thing I do want to point out as well is that, he says, why not take it slow? Which, once again, it's very important. Everything about what's been going on within Season 2 has been literally about Rudy taking it slow, trying to build up relationships. Build up a relationship with Julie, build up a relationship with Zenoba, build up a relationship with Nanahoshi, build a relationship with, obviously, Fitz. He's been building relationships. Some were old bonds, but overall, he's really just been trying to structure a new group around him that, he's never had. And in a way, this is also Rudy going back to school, which I have neglected to talk about, throughout my episode reviews. But remember, Rudy in his previous life, he didn't really get to fully finish school because, he was ran off, he was bullied, he did not have a good time. And everything about this situation, he's getting to have that school life, he's getting to interact with people, have a presence, and I think this is a good segue to talk about just Rudy's, hierarchy in the school, because you see a bunch of students, Beastmen, etc., passing Rudy or see Rudy, and they look away. It's a very important scene, because even if it's very subtle and it doesn't directly state it, there is an air of avoidance and respect that is being directed at Rudy. I mean, even, the girl that actually caused problems to Rudy later on, she straight up just walked past Rudy and just, doesn't want to look him in the eye. And I think this also showcases Rudy is, obviously, to a lot of people, a very powerful man. He is not weak, someone that you can just push around and bully, but also he's someone that has managed to kind of rope everybody in line that's kind of encountered him. For instance, to the whole special class. I mean, everybody on the outside looks at Rudy, he's just randomly appeared in the academy, and somehow he got people like, the two Beast Girls, to also Nanahoshi, to, also Fitz being defeated, and then a Demon King. It's just like everything about this, Rudy comes in and he's kind of shoved the entire special class under his command. That's at least what people on the outside look at as it, and everything about this is important because it shows that Rudy won't have to worry about being bullied, but also there is, once again, a level of respect that people have obviously showed him just in this episode alone. And, it was kind of brought up with this scene as well, that, Rudy has a lot of minions, a lot of people that follow him, a lot of people that believe in him, a lot of people probably that hate him, but overall, he definitely has a lot more respect now, because he has worked for these achievements slowly but surely, which goes into the whole message of what the episode's about, which, that's another good segue. This episode is very slow, and not in a bad way. It's a very slow episode, because in its own way, it's kind of like an individual walking through the halls and just thinking to themselves on their journey so far. For instance, how their life has been, what's going on in their daily life. It's an update status. Like, for instance, everything that Rudy kind of goes through throughout this episode is him just giving us an update status of his schedule, like who he hangs out with in certain parts of the day, how everybody around him is doing, to just, getting to see progression of other characters over time. There's a lot of little things throughout this episode, to just the training of Julie and all that with her magic. It is a slow episode that is very slice of life, that shows Rudy just taking day by day. And this is one of the big elements that, the journey of Season 2 has been about. Rudy needs to take everything day by day, trying to put the pieces back together after the events of Season 1, and just be a stronger person, and not fall apart when he's on his own. He's definitely trying to better himself in any way he can, and he is surrounded by people that are obviously very supportive of him. And I think a good way to kind of explain this is just seeing an old friend, a party adventurer, coming out, and just talking with Rudy briefly. Julie. You know, seeing this man just chatting with Rudy and all that, saying like, oh, you're a buddy and all that, we should be carrying your bags. You know, it shows that, you know, there's no mocking, there's a level of respect between the two, and that, you know, they obviously will always look at Rudy as a deep friend, maybe even a family member to a degree. It's a beautiful little exchange between the two characters. So yeah, this is, like I said, a really good episode, just like, in its own slow way, showing the changes, the gradual changes that have been taking place throughout the episodes. Now, let's talk about the nitty-gritty. Let's actually talk about the in-between scenes and stuff that's been going on throughout these little segments I've talked about. I mean, we have a scene where, like, you know, Body, the Demon King, he comes up and he starts to sit down with the group, and it's very clear that he's tried to intermingle with everyone within this academy, at the very least, you know, Rudy's group, and, you know, he offers a bunch of booze, and obviously a dwarf, you know, likes their booze. That's just something when it comes to folklore and myth and all that. So seeing Julie just downing a bunch of booze with this Demon King is pretty funny, because when you think about it, it's like, you know, nobody probably that would drink this would be able to stand. Let's be honest. Whatever is in that is probably extremely strong that would knock anyone out if they were to have a shot of it. But obviously Julie just drinks it, gulps it down, because dwarfs obviously are very stout and they know how to drink their alcohol. But what I'm really shocked about when it comes to this scene is that it isn't censored. And hear me out, okay? It's very minor, nothing too important, nothing crazy, etc. It wouldn't take away if it was censored or not, but usually stuff like this is censored. There's bound to be many of you out there that are currently watching this video that knows that there has been many times throughout anime where a character obviously is clearly not of drinking age, you know, gets a drink, and they're either given milk, they're given orange juice, whatever. They're not given, you know, the actual straight up stout drink that you see here. And the fact that Julie was given it is pretty surprising. I thought there was laws in Japan to not showcase this. Like, I know in Japan there's laws for certain things that can be broadcasted. I always thought that, you know, there was a law that you could not show scenes like this. But I guess I was wrong. I guess because maybe Julie is classified as a dwarf, it's okay. That's my assumption. But even then, regardless of all of that, I just think that what makes this interesting is that it's a little brief scene that showcases, you know, Julie can take alcohol in comparison to anyone else. Probably if Zenobo was to take it, the man would just be down on the ground. But anyways, we also got to talk about the stuff with Cliff. I mean, we have a little brief update here with Cliff and Rudy, and how Rudy explains about curses, how curses can be transferred to, like, you know, objects, like how, you know, Rudeus, how he had his spear that was cursed, and that's kind of what caused the whole problems with his clan. You know, Rudy explains, like, yeah, so curses probably can be kind of moved on to an object, and it's very apparent why Cliff wants to know these things. I mean, it kind of is pieced together very well. You don't need to be directly told, but to get into that, you know, we know for a fact, you know, Elena, she is someone that is cursed. We know this. She has that high, you know, I guess, drive to be with someone, and if she isn't, she dies. And obviously Cliff, being someone that, you know, wants to be a great husband, someone that wants to be a great boyfriend to her, you know, he wants to help her out. I mean, that's very apparent by him just wanting to find out more about curses, and anything he gets or any information will probably be there to be able to help her out, for she can have somewhat of a more normal life. So it's a very interesting exchange, showcasing that Cliff, you know, isn't selfish. He is very selfless. He wants to help people, and I like that. I really do like that. And also the whole little thing here where, you know, Cliff is briefly stated to be going on a journey and all that with a adventure team also shows that he's going to get to see what Rudy has dealt with over those years, and kind of if he's cut out for it or if he's not. It would obviously open up his worldview a bit, because, you know, Cliff, when he's first introduced in the OVA, not just, you know, season 2, you know, in the OVA, he was someone that was just very arrogant, I guess. He was an arrogant individual that believed that he was really talented, and he is talented. Nobody can really deny his talents, but he believed he was basically one of the most talented. And when he got confronted with someone potentially being better, like Eris or Rudy, it really hurt him. It really hurt his ego, his pride. And, you know, he's grown a lot since then. And seeing this exchange here with him being able to go on an adventure and also be in the back line and not go too hard or whatever showcases that he has changed and bettered as a man, but he will also have a better worldview after this little adventure group is done. So it's great. It's nice little character development for a side character. Anyways, I guess that's about it. Like I said, it's a simple episode, but there's a lot of depth to it when it comes to the slice of life. It felt like 3 to 5 minutes for an episode, which it's the curse. It is the curse of good shows. It always is the curse. When you're watching something good or, reading something good, it just goes so quickly, and I hate that feeling, but I also love that feeling. It's a double-edged blade because, you're enjoying the content. But I guess I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. May all of you have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.